Hello, everyone. Well, have you ever thought about asking for a FOIA request to be done and finding out how much that actually costs, like maybe over $100,000? Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Laura-Lynn Thompson, and I'm doing one of my favorite things in the whole world, being right here with you. Thank you for joining me. I love it that we get to have coffee together. I got my coffee in a big black mug today, and this is my second cup. So I'm trying to cut back, but I make the perfect coffee. I've told you before, you got to put some cinnamon in it, honey, lots of cremo. It's epic. Gets me through the day every single day, and so do you. We have got quite a show today, so we'll talk about all of that. But let's start the show with how we start it every single day by reading from my dearly departed father's Bible. And this week, actually, we will be laying my dad to rest. I know it's been like 2 years. Oh my goodness, 21, 22, 20. Oh, was it? Oh my goodness. So it's actually been 3 years since Dad's gone? That's crazy. When did that time go by? Wow. I'm having a moment here trying to figure out, like, how did we go 3 years? Because, having Dad around, it's been, we've kind of had him on a shelf here and there, and then we lost him for 6 months. My brother lost my dad. So it's like weekend at Bernie's, where's Dad? That's very disrespectful. And so we found him. And my dad is now going to be laid to rest beside my mom, and that's this weekend. I don't know if we all just couldn't find the time to do it, but a lot has been happening in all of our lives, remodels and all of that. So I just love my dad. I went to the dog park the other night walking my dogs, and I met this lady, and it's so funny because we were talking about, she lives in my area, and she has been in this area for about 25 years. So we just been new here, renting here, after we purchased in other parts of the world, we have, a new life of renting places. So I was saying to her, like, how much I love the area that we're in and all of that. And she was telling me how it's, grown up and everything. And I said, I just blurted out, are you going to die in this house? Because they've been in this house for so long. I mean, don't they want to move or something like that? And she goes, yep. Oh, I think we are. Maybe we'll go downstairs and our daughter will go upstairs because they live with their daughter. And I said, that is beautiful. And she goes, yeah. When I was a kid, she said, I moved so much that I just wanted stability. So I grew up and I wanted stability. And so the first house that they had, they raised their daughter in. Their daughter was so sick and tired of being in just one house that she was like, aren't we ever going to move? Like, what's going on? Why aren't we moving? And so it's funny how the generations are, where if you're raised and you move a lot, well, you don't want to move. You want the opposite. But if you're raised the other way, then you want the opposite, And so it's interesting. JT and I are kind of in this season where we call ourselves like the teenagers. So we just go wherever we want. And we're about to make another move because we're going to be going on to Daystar Canada television, back on TV, everyone. And thank you. And I'm hoping that some of you out there will actually really consider how you might help us to do that, because I can honestly say it's a bit of a faith walk to sort of embrace doing it on our own. So not under another company, not under another ministry, but actually just embracing getting our own slot on television on Daystar Canada. I'm excited. I know the Lord has opened that opportunity, but I wanted, to maybe bring that full circle with the fact that my guest today is someone who's really standing up for children in our nation. And, my journey, God called me into television in 1999, and it was epic. I mean, I was shaking and crying in my living room, and I really felt that the Lord had put a call on my life to go onto TV and to just be a shining light for Him. And then over the years, many great things, ups and downs happened. And then I was on, another national television Christian broadcaster when I first heard of this thing called SOGI, SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity. And I couldn't believe it. I actually thought I was being punked at first. I told Lise just before we got started here on the show that I thought someone was making stuff up. And she says, I know, you're going to love her. She is very spunky. And I personally thought that there was just one teacher in Langley that had this crazy idea to teach little boys that they could be a girl, and vice versa, little girls that they could be a boy. And that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And this can't be very real. We're going to shut this thing down. Little did I know that they had been working at this for a very long time. The WHO is in on it. The WEF is in on it. The United Nations is in on this teaching. And by the time we actually saw the first little sprout, one little sprout, we heard about it where a mom discovered it by accident at a school in Langley. By the time we knew that, it was like the root system all underneath had already spread out throughout Canada. So we were late. We thought we were early. I thought I was early. So I started fighting it for all I was worth. And then the Christian organization that I was on air with, wondered, well, how long I would be sort of doing this. And I said this exact sentence. Well, how long will they be telling little boys that they can be a girl? I mean, it's not scientific. It's not rational. It's not good. If you want to watch the stories now, we didn't have any then, but the stories now of those who have transitioned and are so broken. Once you cut your penis off, it's done. It is not going to grow back. If you're a girl and you decide at some early age that you want to cut your breasts off, and they are doing that as early as 14, 16 years old in Canada, it doesn't come back. And how many of you think that when you were 16, you didn't know what the world was really about, right? You had a lot of growing to do and a lot of maturing. And now we find that these people who have made life-altering decisions and cannot reverse them get to the age of about 25 and they're destroyed because nothing's working. I mean, your sex life is destroyed if you see and hear from them what's going on. You never have a God-given beautiful sex life because you've destroyed the parts that were supposed to help you and, be a part of your identity. You've destroyed them. And so what we're finding is that lots of things are not working. The Tavistock Gender Health Clinic, shut down and started doing things a different way because the outcomes were not good. But has the world learned anything from this? Have we been able to shut down all of this teaching? No. They've doubled down. They're doing it more and more. And for me, it's what cost my position on national television because, it wasn't that my organization didn't agree with me. They did, but that just wasn't their calling, and it was mine. It was mine. From the moment I found out, it's not just one teacher in Langley. It's a group of activists. It's an organized agenda that is infiltrating and seizing our educational establishment. And it's done a good job. They are in everywhere. And God forbid, if you say a word against it, you'll be called all kinds of names. And that's what happened to me when I ran for school trustee. So I lost my national job. And, that was cancel culture, but it wasn't because they didn't like me. It wasn't because they didn't think I was doing the right thing. But granted, we're in this place in Canada where if you talk about your true views on this issue, you might lose your job by the end of the day if you mention it too loudly in the lunchroom. And that ought not to be. And I wonder how it got to be this way. How did this happen? Well, my amazing guest is another generation of a fighter. And I appreciate that we are in this together. We are mama bears. We're not going to take it lying down, and we're not going to be silent. And no amount of names you call us will cause us to stop the protection of the identity of our children. So Lise Merle, she's a writer, a thought leader, a media personality, and happily married mom of 6 from the great big wide open province of Saskatchewan. In all of her spare time, she stays busy neglecting her housework. Yes, high five to that. And campaigning for Regina Public School Trustee in Saskatchewan's municipal election coming up on November 13th. And she is under fire. So Lise, it doesn't surprise me at all that if you're going to be someone who fights for the identity of the kids, you find yourself in a much bigger fight than you maybe anticipated. So welcome to the show. Thanks for fighting for the children. And I would love, love, love to hear about your journey and how this started and what's going on in Saskatchewan.
Well, hello, Laura-Lynn, and hello, Laura-Lynn viewers. I'm just so delighted to be with you today. My grandmother in heaven right now is doing cartwheels about me being here with you. She's a big fan of yours, never missed a show. So,
That's awesome.
So that just
on 700,
gives
right?
me
True
story.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was a daily thing. I mean, it just could not be missed. It was
That's
church every day for her, no, I'm just so delighted to be here today to talk about such a pressing, important topic to Canadian parents and to Canadians as a whole. I'm so happy that you introed that this is not a gender, sexual orientation and gender identity is not some sort of grassroots, each individual, just discovering that they're
never heard of it till 2017. And I was like, what?
Up until 5 minutes ago. True story. Up until 5 minutes ago, humans were under the impression that we were a sexually dimorphic mammalian species that could not change their biological sex. And then all of a sudden, in stealth and under the cover of darkness comes this entire thing. And if you look at when sexual identity and gender identity were enshrined in human rights codes in Canada, it was all post-Trudeau. I mean, do you think that if this guy would have campaigned on sterilizing children, he would have gotten voted in? Of course not. But this is the fact of the matter. It is not grassroots. There is nothing normal or okay about it. This is big tech, big government, and big pharma absolutely blowing up everything we know to be right and true in this world. It is eviscerating children. It is eviscerating the rights of women. It is taking out families. Families are suffering because of this. And we need a whole bunch more people, no matter when they are awakened to this issue, to simply resist by every means and to say no. That's it.
And say something.
All of us together now.
Not very many people agree with any of this. Millions. I've been saying it for years. Millions of us are upset. And now we have the Muslims and the Sikhs that are very, very upset and they are protesting and they're going to march and all of that. And so people have come together and they've said that we don't agree with this, but the sad reality is not everyone's like you, Lise. And I just want to tell you that you've been, called for such a time as this because you're willing to say it out loud. Many people, of course, they don't agree with it, but they're like deer in the headlights. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to be called names. We're so afraid. Ooh, God forbid we're called a name, because that's what they do. They call names and they're bullies to the people, the anti-bullying crowd are bullies to anyone that will not agree and celebrate. It's not even just agreement. It's celebration of what they believe, which we do not believe. And we have a right to that because we are in Canada. So this is a huge battle. And I'm just so very glad that you are out loud about it.
Well, I couldn't imagine being anything else. And like you at the beginning, you know, I saw pride flags being progressive pride flags, I should say, being painted on sidewalks, and I thought, you know, good for them, good for them. You know, you love who you love, and you know, I fell into all of their speaking points too, and it wasn't until one critical moment that I went, oh my God. Like, how could we have got this far? I remember being on the radio. I spent 10 years on conservative talk radio here in Saskatchewan. And I remember when they were enshrining sexual identity and gender identity into our human rights code and saying out loud, and if I could go back and wring my own neck, I would. I remember saying out loud, right, but like nobody is going to believe it, right? Like nobody will do this because it's just so unbelievable that, I mean, it just won't happen. That was less than 7 years ago that this happened, and now I find myself in a position as a mother of 6 with 4 little kids going to school at Regina Public Schools, up against an absolute tsunami of craziness where they would run over parents that have deeply held values and beliefs as it pertains to sex and gender, which for most people are the exact same thing, right? Most families, being that we create the children, have an understanding of how this works. Up until 5 minutes ago, we all agreed that a child or a human's sex was determined at conception. It is XX and XY chromosomes, and really that's all there was to it. And then all of a sudden comes this uh, immensely well-funded machine that is working against us all. And no matter what happens, we must all commit to do everything we can to unpick this. That we must be able to admit that we got this wrong. We got this wrong in every way that we may have supported it up until this point. But you can't deny that we are doing children and families immense harm by propagating this ideology and by upholding it in broader society. It has been so damaging that we just must put a stop to it by any means.
Well, all you have to do is
Mhm.
listen to the people that got caught in it. And these are the people that
Oh,
get rejected by the movement. The people
oh,
that
what?
go, no one told me that I would
Yes.
never be able to have proper sex. No one actually informed me that I wouldn't be happy just because I cut parts off my body or had
That
stuff sewn
nobody
on.
nobody told them the truth, that they were being sold a bill of goods that they could never ever cash. And then you take, so just let's isolate this to children in COVID. Okay, so much of this is the predictable result of COVID. In COVID, we took away from children everything that was normal, all of their regular schedules, all of their routines, everything that brought them joy and fulfillment as children, the freedom to just be a child and not worry. We filled their heads with fear and with craziness. We put the weight of the world on their shoulders, and we told them that going online into digital spaces was safe, right? Well, guess what they found online? Guess what they found online? They found hundreds of influencers that were seeding them with the language, with the terminology, with the the medical stories and all of these glowing 5-star reviews, um, that told them a lie, and that lie was that their problems would be solved if they started exploring their sexuality and gender. Well, as all of these chickens come home to roost, we all understand now, right? That is no solution to our children's unhappiness or their discomfort with their world. We we created the discomfort of our children, and we must help them through this. I mean, this was unleashed on the worldwide population through big government, big tech, and big pharma together, and we must be able to confront all three of those things and walk it back for our kids. Because if if we are suggesting that sterilizing and mutilating children is the answer to their problems, then I would say that we have lost our humanity. Never have we ever suggested this to children. Never, ever. I mean,
I know.
it just defies belief
Good for
that this has
you.
been allowed to take root to
It is that
the point that
upsetting.
it has. It's an egregious sin against
Well, you're
children.
taking them and saying that who you are, what the body that you were born in is not right. And in order to fix that, it's almost $100,000 of surgeries. And if you don't even go that far, you
Well,
can just start changing all of these other things, to try to pretend or whatever. And
yes,
you're sort of told that you're not to accept yourself as you are. What happened to the love yourself that went
it's
a little bit crazy in the
oh,
70s,
oh my God.
We got away
Well,
from
well,
that and into hate yourself, and you can change it, by the way.
well, even I've heard that the trans movement is the greatest act of homophobia that's ever been unleashed upon the world, because what it does is it teaches, you know, kids that may not, but may grow up to be gay, and tells them to hate themselves to the point of mutilation. I mean, and when you think about it that way, and you know what, some of my biggest and most ardent and committed supporters are gay and lesbian people who agree with me, who don't have children, but who agree with me that we should not be harming children with all
I
of
have
this
the same
ideology.
thing.
We should.
I've had letters from gay people thanking me
Oh,
for standing up so
and
strongly against the trans movement.
same, girl, same. Like, these are the people that are propelling me forward, because of course children deserve the right to grow up without interference by malicious and insidious
Operations
and
and
vindictive
drugs.
organizations. That's
Yes.
right.
Drugs that
That's
harm
exactly
them. They
right.
change their voice permanently so that you never get back your girl voice. You will
And let
always
me
sound like a man.
and I'm uniquely positioned to speak on the puberty blocker side, because puberty blockers is a class of drugs that's also used for fertility treatments, and that's how I got my 6 kids, Laura-Lynn. So let me tell you about my experience being on Lupron. So Lupron is it's commonly referred to as a puberty blocker. It's also used in fertility treatments. It's also used to chemically castrate pedophiles. It is that strong a drug. So what it does is it completely shuts down your body's mechanism to produce any hormone, okay, any at all. And we all know, okay, especially us as women, we know that hormones drive emotion. This is why every man watching would be like, hey, have you ever seen your woman suffer from PMS? Every man is going, yep, there's a change. When you are on the drug called Lupron, it creates a complete facade between you and your emotions. You are actually devoid of emotion. And this was evidence to me so in our fertility journey, I had many, many miscarriages. My problem wasn't getting pregnant. My problem was staying pregnant. And so I was on Lupron and had a miscarriage and had no reaction to it. I was unfazed by my miscarriage, whereas every single other miscarriage I had, I felt like I had just walked into a tsunami. I was so upset. But on Lupron, there was nothing. There was blank. And so to put children on this
Wow.
drug, okay, so children on puberty blockers, just imagine this. You have parents who are begging them to reconsider. And these kids are like, I just don't care. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. Well, that's the Lupron talking, not the child talking. It literally rewires the way your brain processes emotion. And then so later on I had boy girl twins, and I was telling you in the earlier sort of interview piece that I saw my boy girl twins 5 days post conception under a microscope. So they're these 2 perfect little 5-day-old embryos that are pulsating with life. You can see the cell division happening at 5 days post conception. They could fit on the end of a pin. That's how tiny they were just before transfer back into me. But even at that time, 5 days post conception, one was genetically a boy and one was genetically a girl. And we knew this because they did the pre-genetic testing. They were created as a boy and a girl, or a girl. And this is true for every human that has ever been born, ever. And it wasn't until 5 seconds ago that we started to hear arguments to this.
Amazing.
And of course it is just ridiculous to suggest that one can abandon their biological sex. It is not possible. It is not possible.
Wow, you are, I'm so glad. I mean, you're such a gifted communicator in this regard. And also, you've had these experiences, even with Lupron, to even understand what that does to your mind, and then with your beautiful babies. That's a stunning story. That is a stunning story. So amazing.
They're pretty great. Yeah.
So-
No, I feel like I was uniquely positioned. Like,
Right.
God put me in this position to speak on this thing. I have all of the experience to back up my beliefs, and I would argue nobody has more experience in this regard. So
I agree.
So I'm so happy to do it. I'm so happy to do it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Because now
Thank
it's
you.
Saskatchewan, and I do remember speaking at a church back, I'm going to say, so it was around 2017, maybe just a little 2016, when we first discovered all of this. And I went there and I was invited to speak, and I said, I come here with a warning that this that we're dealing with in British Columbia, this is coming here to Saskatchewan. And we had a massive service. Like, it was a warrior service. It was like, we just worship God, but we knew that we had to prepare ourselves because something was coming against us and against our families. And so here you are, you're from Saskatchewan, and you are now putting your name forward, and you're in a really big battle, and you're trying to get to the bottom of what's been going on and how did we get here. And so you have quite a story of what's happened.
Yeah. So our story in Saskatchewan is unique because I don't know if you heard this one, but back in June 2023, so this was 1 year ago, one year and a bit ago, students in a little town called Lumsden, Saskatchewan, had a sexual health class that was hosted by a guest speaker from an organization called Planned Parenthood. And the person from Planned Parenthood came into this little small town Saskatchewan sexual health class in grade 10 and gave their children the most filthy materials you have ever. Have you heard of this story? The most filthy materials you have ever heard in your life.
I know of someone who does it in the Vancouver schools, and it's disturbing.
Oh, these described sexual acts that I, as a 47-year-old woman, have never, ever, ever heard of. These were graphic examples of
what the heck is wrong with these people? What is the psyche? Like, can you imagine? Do you know, like, is anyone in your friendship circle, anyone you would think that they would have a class of kids and their thing would be to put forward and describe sexual acts that are so deviant and so bizarre world,
never.
know, like, you wouldn't have these people as your friends, and yet we're entrusting our kids to them at school. Like, every one of them should be fired.
Exactly that.
Perfect.
Exactly that.
It's
and so
disgusting.
It was one of my girlfriends that this happened. It was one of her kids that it happened to. One of the girls that I grew up just down the road in Pence, Saskatchewan. It was one of her kids that it happened to. And what got me onto the Freedom of Information Act request was Freedom of Information Act requested, she asked for access to information records based on that incident at school. And what it revealed was shocking, because even though she called the school administrator and she was on them that afternoon, her husband was at the school that next morning at 7:00 to talk to the principal. The reaction of the school was to quickly circle back to Planned Parenthood to come up with a sort of, a strategy or some sort of explanation. The school gave Planned Parenthood the opportunity to distance themselves from what had happened. And then what Planned Parenthood came up with is what was reported in the media, which wasn't accurate. So that's what got me thinking. And honestly, that event is what changed the people of Saskatchewan and made everybody look really quickly. Who is influencing our kids at school? Who is being allowed in classrooms? What concepts are they floating? Like if they this easily floated this kind of deviant material to grade 10 kids in Lumsden, Saskatchewan, what else are they doing? So to the credit of the government of Saskatchewan, they had a visceral reaction to seeing those cards. They had the government of Saskatchewan saw these cards and just went, absolutely not. And started floating the Saskatchewan parental rights.
Right. So the cards were like literal cards, like they'd hold up cards.
They were playing cards. They were playing cards A to Z. Actually, I'll try and find them and send them to you. Because it is staggering. You would die to see them. Right. Like these are not. I mean, these are not words or terms or.
You don't want to show your grandmother this, right? Like this is embarrassing and disgusting and humiliating, and your kids are being shown this.
I mean, these are 15 and 16-year-old kids that were shown these things that you that you and I, who have been married for 100 years, have never ever heard of. And this was true across the board. Once you saw what the materials that they were giving to kids, it all of a sudden put a big old spotlight on what was happening in Saskatchewan schools. And that's when we all started to realize, we got a big problem here. So the government of Saskatchewan came out with the Saskatchewan Parents' Bill of Rights. It's the first in the nation, as far as I know, to be able to pass it because there was fierce opposition from the left. I mean, the NDP absolutely wants SoJi brought into every school. They think every kid should explore their sexuality with the teacher or with the the special sexual health educator. Yes. And the government of Saskatchewan said absolutely not. So nobody, there are no third-party providers providing sexual health education in Saskatchewan anymore. And parents all of a sudden have a law that says we must give consent before a child under 16 pronouns are changed or their name is changed at school, because even the government had to consider that it was government employees that were doing this to families, even though this defies the values and the beliefs and the religions and really all of the all of the beliefs that families
while you're on this,
in a vast majority believe.
While you're on this topic, I would like to be able to share this person, JT. I'll see if I can bring this on. Where did my thing go? Somehow it disappeared. I'm going to bring her on. So I think her name is Salima Noon is actually her name. And it's all about telling little kids as young as she can get to them, all about sex. This could be grade 1, grade 2, saying way more so that parents are shocked. They're not informed about what she is going to be divulging to the kids. She's going to be talking about homosexual couples, and
it's happening.
Just going into all of this graphic talk that you as a parent did not know for sure. Like when we grew up, we barely got nothing. I don't know. I'm a little bit older than you, I think, but I mean, it really was barely nothing. And then all of a sudden it's everything. And this is bad,
Yeah. No, it is. The government of Saskatchewan was forced to invoke the notwithstanding clause to push through the Saskatchewan Parents' Bill of Rights because there was so much fierce opposition from the left and the gender activists, and it really was a spectacular moment for the parents of Saskatchewan to know that we at least had some protection. And by no means does it go far enough, and by no means does it cover every part of the rights that parents have. But at least they gave us something so that our children wouldn't be transitioned behind our backs and create an entire identity without parents knowing. Now, it doesn't cover the social transition part. It doesn't cover the sexual orientation and gender identity parts of education. Like you said, after my eyes were open to this, I realized that every single one of my kindergartners, of my youngest 4, started every day with the song "I Can Sing a Rainbow," which is an anthem. I mean, it is an anthem. Instead of "Oh Canada," we're singing "I Can Sing a Rainbow." And then when you start piecing it all together, you just realize how insidious and how ingratiated it is to every part of the curriculum. We're talking queering of math. We're talking about queering of language. We're talking about queering of art. Every part of education has had this ideology infused into it, and this is what parents have a problem with. This is what parents do not want. So
no, they do not want this, and they're always shocked. And in
No.
fact, I mean, some teachers, like I had one story of a lady. So the only reason she knew what was being said was because she was actually a helper that day at the school, and so she was hearing it, and she was just like in
Accidental.
shock. Yep, and she was absolutely like mortified and in tears.
Can't
in
imagine.
tears
Oh,
that she's
When-
like, her child is in this class,
yes. Yeah.
hearing all of this nonsense. So this
Yeah,
is this
that's-
Salima Noon. If I'll just say to every parent in in Vancouver district area, if you hear that Salima Noon is coming to your school, make sure your kids are not there that day, because they will literally, their minds will be assaulted with what she says to them. And it's a serious. We've actually covered her. Talk Sex Today. Here's one of their books, What Kids Need to Know and How Adults Can Teach Them. So she thinks that she's the person who is the absolute expert to be able to tell you, what your kids need to know. And it's so offensive. It's unbelievable. They talk about these graphic things. There's a term, but it's a lot about like the kind of sex that your child will not be engaging in ever, and they think they have to tell them. So this is a disturbed thing.
Yeah, and truly, what parents and what grandparents and what every Canadian needs to know is Salima Noon is one cog in the wheel that has thousands of different parts. This all began in, I want to say it was 2017, when the federal government settled a class action lawsuit with public sector employees who were basically suing the government for past discrimination. So these were public sector employees that maybe were in in the military, worked in public service. These were old school gay and lesbian people who were discriminated against by the government. Well, they sued the government, and then the government settled with them and said, here's $100 million. Okay, so consider that seed money, $100 million. Then COVID happened. Okay, so here are all of these public sector unions that are just flush with new money, and this brand new group of activists pops up. Okay, COVID is happening. They can't travel to where they want. They can't, have all of the cheerleading struggle sessions that they wanted to have. So what did they do? They created resources. And what Salima Noon is a resource provider. So to public education, which is chronically underfunded, by the way, what Salima Noon says, and thousands, literally thousands of other organizations, what they say is, right, you don't have to, because they're all federally funded, you don't have to pay us anything, but we'll come in and take this part of the curriculum off your hands. Well, this sounds like a godsend to teachers who are overstressed, who have, hundreds of thousands of new students, even in the past year. Our classrooms are just busting at the seams in Canada because of all the new Canadians coming in. And these guys, these sexual orientation and gender identity resource providers Well, I mean, it sounds like they're doing everybody a great big favor, but really what they're doing is propagating through these concepts through the public sector. So they're taxpayer funded through the government. The government funds these organizations, and then the organizations provide it right back into the public sector. So whether it be public education, whether it be your provincial government ministries, whether it be, I mean, there are thousands of these providers. So, I mean, part of it is going to be defunding them. Part of it is going to be a change in government. A change in government at the federal level can't come soon enough. But also, it's identifying that that's what they are. They're a third-party resource provider that's being seconded to come in to float these things. Not only does it absolve the government agent, because listen, a parent like the parent in Langley who would have been upset at witnessing this in their own kid's school, just like Planned Parenthood, the school can go, oh, well, we didn't know that they were going to say that. Well, we didn't know that that was part of their resource kit. Well, we didn't know. They can wash their hands of it. That's part of it. It's obfuscating around the fact that they have it, the buck stops with the organization that's hiring these people to come in. And so for so many parents in Canada, that means our public education sector. That means our public education sector. We must not invite these people in if parents, number one, say no, but number two, don't have trust in the institution. I mean, parents have got to get a handle on who has access to their kids and the concepts that they've been floating at schools.
They absolutely do. And you decided that you wanted to know more about what was going on. So you go, okay, I'm just going to do a FOIA request.
Yeah. So after the Lumsden sex card scandal last year, and after a series of really, really disturbing events that happened to our family personally, I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request on the Regina Public School District. This is the school district that all 6 of my kids have attended. No mother has given them more children than me. But I feel like it's well within my rights to understand what exactly they've been up to this last several years. So I basically asked for 4 things. I asked for information about myself. Anytime my name was mentioned, I want to know what they have been saying about me. I also asked about parental rights and parental inclusion. I also asked about charter, the charter right to education, which belongs explicitly to parents. I asked for information about my own children. This is within my purview to know what the schools have, I guess, been saying or been doing with my children while I'm entrusting my children to them. And then I asked for a bunch of information on LGBTQ, gender and sexual identity, about Pride events, because this was in June. So as you know, Pride season in Canada, it's not Pride month anymore. It's Pride season, goes right from June till the end of September, which is whatever. And what I got back was absolutely stunning. They sent me back. So after obfuscating around and taking 60 days, and they're only supposed to take 30, they sent me back a fee estimate for $29,270. And this is to find out what they've been doing without my consent or knowledge. And it gets even worse than that. They said in their fee estimate that had they followed the Saskatchewan Information and Privacy Commissioner's methodology for doing these searches, that my fee estimate would have come back at over $197,000. Laura-Lynn, you can't tell me this hasn't been the absolute focus of Regina Public Schools over the last several years. You can't tell me that anymore. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is in the numbers. So
it makes
just
you wonder,
wild.
If there's that kind of fee, that means there's a lot of paper, there's a lot of printing, there's a lot of information on just the specific topics that you're asking for. It's everywhere. It's almost $200,000 worth of information that you're asking us to print because it's so excessive.
Yes. Oh no, seriously. And I only asked for like a handful of employees. I mean, I didn't ask for every bit of information from every employee. I cherry picked 4 or 5 that I knew would be interesting to look at, we'll say. And that's what it came back with, was $197,000. And make no mistake, these are keyword searches. Nobody is, digging through great big file folders or file cabinets, going over to the old printing press or the photocopier and getting all these records. They're doing
Right.
they're doing keyword searches across their digital infrastructure, and but I mean, that is the way that they keep us in the dark. That's the way they keep us in the dark, is by making the process, the punishment, and by making it so exceedingly expensive. Like, what am I supposed to do as a mother? Am I supposed to put my house up for sale so I can afford the records to find out what my kids have been up to at school? It's preposterous. But the gross number of records that they said they had is the story in this, Laura-Lynn. It was just staggering. It was just
Wow.
staggering. So
I mean, they have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, and they're incorporating SOGI into math. They're incorporating this kind of stuff into history, into, all the sciences. Everything is SOGI, SOGI, SOGI. No one wanted this. No one asked for it. And
nobody consented.
We don't want it. No one consented for you to teach my children that you don't own my children. They're not yours. They're not your state. They're not.
I do not co-parent with the government. That is my line. I don't my kids do not belong to the government, the state, the school board, any teacher, any employee. My kids are mine and mine alone. 100%. Thanks very much. And I understand that there is a tiny, tiny subset of parents, okay? A tiny subset of parents who say, my kid identifies as something other than their biological gender. And fair enough. But that is up to you as that child's parent to provide any education and resources that child needs to be able to become a successful and productive member of society. It is not public education's job to educate every child on their might be somewhat nebulous sexual identity. And, I just think that it's so offside to suggest that it's okay to either explore or exploit a child's developing sexual identity for for devious purposes. It is it violates every boundary that we have between adults and children, and protecting children. They are too young to advocate on their behalf. Parents need to do it, and they are too young to realize that they are being manipulated by this machine. They are too young. They
100%.
They should not.
And most people will agree with you, but very few are willing to articulate it, because if you do, you end up being vilified, and called names for actually wanting to defend children.
I get more praise on the daily, girlfriend. I get more praise and more encouragement than I ever thought was possible in this life, because I am brave, because I am unabashedly willing to expose this and to talk about it and to offer some semblance of reality and truth into a topic that is built on lies. People are so thirsty for the truth that when you give it to them, they are thankful. They are thankful. And it's honestly my privilege and my honor to be able to talk about these topics, to unpick them for people, and most of all, to make them brave. I am telling you, nothing bad will happen.
Courage is contagious. The truth. That's right.
That's right. And
so how do you handle it when they call you something that's offensive to your soul?
Okay. I have been called an extremist, a hateful bigot, a transphobe, a homophobe, somebody who's going to wind back education 50 years. And what I do is go right through those words, absolutely right through them, because I know that behind every one comment that is vilifying me or degrading me or mispositioning my my deeply held values and beliefs. There are thousands of people who are cheering me on, thousands of people who are cheering me on, saying, don't stop, you can't stop. If you stop, then what do we got? What do we got? Then we're back to square one. If I stop, I'm disappointing the hundreds of people that have reached out and congratulated me on my stance. As a matter of fact, one of the best things to ever happen on Mother's Day, Laura-Lynn, let me tell you this. This is the best story. You're gonna love it. We were just sitting down for Mother's Day brunch this year, and our doorbell rang. And on our little Nest camera in our kitchen, who do I see at our door but an NDP candidate? Okay, our NDP candidate came door knocking right at brunch on Mother's Day. And I had my question ready to fire at this guy. So I go to the door, I open it up, and I say, do you believe that teachers should be able to keep secrets from parents? And he tried to dance around it, but I repeated it real fast. Do you believe that teachers should be able to keep secrets from parents? And he said, yes. Well, I had that video up on the internet less than 3 hours later, and I gave 1 million Canadians now have that question, Laura-Lynn. 1 million Canadians now have that question to ask every political candidate that is asking for that vote. I am in the business of giving license to people. I'm giving people permission to say the things that I say and to believe the things that I believe, and to really, really inspire them to be brave and to tell them nothing that can be done or said about you is worse than what's being done and said about children right now. And so it's a small price to pay. Any of the names that they call me, any of the weapons that they try and use against me, it's like, I mean, their arrows just bounce right off me. I'm impervious to it at this point. So they can't. I also built my life to be, you have to be uncancelable. You just have to be uncancelable. My goodness.
I love it.
I mean, if you don't,
and I would want you to run for my school district anytime.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like
thanks, babe.
we need 100,000 of you out there, just beacon off the truth and not afraid, you know, and what a great question you asked that guy at your door. I mean, how perfect was that?
No, it was an incredible moment, and that he said the quiet part out loud was the most telling thing. I mean, he tried to come with his, I'm sure that they coached him to have a pre-canned answer, you know, to just gently massage it and then politely back away. But I wasn't letting him get away. He was going to answer the damn question, and he did, and it was incredible. It was incredible. The NDP in Canada has an anti-parent agenda, and has an agenda to part children from their parents in a way that should be really chilling to families. I mean, we all come from a family. We're all agreeing that family is the cornerstone of every society. And they would blow it apart for their political advantage. And for that alone, they should never be able to form government again for as long as the world exists.
Yep.
Yeah, same with
You're
the
so
Democrats.
right. And we have another election coming up here in British Columbia. So we need that NDP out faster than anything. And the Conservatives, the BC Conservatives are doing well. So we pray for that. We just pray for every single person to get out, vote. This has been bad, you know, and not to mention our school systems, but our hospitals as well. Yeah. So you're running.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, you're running for actually a position, right?
Yeah, Regina Public School Trustee. So this is a position that comes with really great responsibility. But I believe that the kids in Saskatchewan deserve a lot better than what they've been getting. And actually, the stats back me up on this. Saskatchewan students rank second last in the nation in math and third last in the nation in literacy.
Wow.
And over the last, and so this is all evidenced by statistics, and it begs the question: if we are not teaching, and make no mistake, kids in Saskatchewan are bright and sharp and resilient. You can't live in Saskatchewan without being a tough cookie, okay? I mean, winters are too inhospitable to raise snowflakes, my goodness. But if we are not concentrating on math, and we're not, And if we're not concentrating on literacy, and we're not, then what have we been concentrating on? That is the question. And when you ask parents, what's the most important thing for you as a parent as it pertains to your kids' education, parents will say that they get a good one, that they are prepared to compete on a national level and on an international level when they leave high school. And the truth is, 30% of Saskatchewan kids in grade 10 don't have level 2 math proficiency. And level 2 math proficiency is the level of math you need to participate in society. 30% of Saskatchewan students don't have the level of math proficiency they need to participate in society. If you're not teaching them math, what have you been teaching? And the truth is, we've had such an over focus on social justice issues, on DEI, on all manners of sort of political activism in the classroom, that they have completely lost focus on what parents want for their kids, and that is to produce successful kids, that every kid can succeed to the utmost of their ability, and so that they're prepared for their lives when they leave school. And that's something that they have not been getting in the last at least 10 years. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to shifting a focus to, is away from these social justice and really politicized issues, giving kids a chance to recover and build a sense of social cohesion that was really, really terribly impacted by COVID. We have kids that don't have any conflict resolution skills. We have kids that have no social cohesion in their lives because there's these digital devices that are impacting everything they say and do, and we really need them. We really need to give them the tools so that they will be able to be healthy, happy, and productive grown-ups, and give us lots of new little Saskies in the end.
You're amazing. So. You're amazing. I'm so grateful for what you're doing. And are you,
Mama, thank you.
Last question for you is, like, are you finding that you have a lot of folks, you say you're getting a lot of love. Are a lot of parents really with you and very excited about this? I mean, it's almost like this woke mob they're so disconnected with what we actually think.
No, truly.
They don't get it.
No, unless so the tolerant left, as I like to call them, if apart from the tolerant left, who will literally try in every way to eviscerate you, to vilify you, to denigrate you. Apart from those, and here's the crazy thing: they so easily identify themselves that that you can just brush it off. It's like, oh, well, there's a crazed left-wing, union activist, or there's a crazy left-wing nut job right there. They identify themselves to you. So as soon as they do that, you can disregard what they say. But when I hear from parents, and when I'm on doorsteps, when I'm talking to families, everybody is on the same page. We are all identifying this as a major, major issue, and I'm getting so much love. I mean, I can just hardly even stand it. It's just incredible, and it really, like, fortune favors the brave. Yes. Fortune favors the brave, and I really believe that. And so
I love that.
I'm very happy to be able
to. It's very inspiring, and it produces more courageous people. So
without
you're
question.
doing that. I love it.
Thank you.
I just hope that you're so well spoken about this, and you're bubbly and bright, and you're not a negative Nelly, except when you're saying, oh my gosh, like, look what they're doing to the kids. But you have to be willing to tell and talk about this. You have to have that. Yeah. And you're doing so beautifully. Thank you for being an incredible, Canadian mom. I just want to give you, like, the final word. Tell us everything we need to know.
Well, Laura-Lynn, thank you so much for having me on today, talking about these issues as a parent, and for all Canadian parents, is forefront of mind when you're raising little kids in Canada right now. None of us signed up for this, and none of us would have even seen this coming. So it's really my honor and my privilege to be able to talk to you today, to be able to connect with fellow Canadians and like-minded parents across the nation. And if anybody wants to get in touch, you can find me on Twitter. X. Now that Elon's got it. Sorry, you can find me on X at
Where
Lise
can we X
Merle.
you?
Lise Merle, Lisemerle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll
Thanks
put
for
that
having
up
me,
right
doll.
there on the screen so people can follow you. And Lise, you're amazing. Thank God for you. Thank God for you, for women like you, mama bears fighting in the land for the kids. And I hope that all of these people that come against you are silenced. They indeed should be the ones silenced, not you. And not
it's
those
coming.
that are common
Thank
sense,
you. It's coming down, girlfriend. Even from a year ago, from 5 years ago, this landscape is unrecognizable. Even from a year ago, we have moved mountains in this last year.
Wow.
And the point is not to stop. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop.
I love it. Thank you so much. We'll catch up with you again and hear how this is advancing. So keep us posted.
Doll.
Yep. You're
Sounds
always welcome.
Good. I'd be happy to come on anytime.
Thank you, Lise.
Thanks so much
You're
for
one of
having
our
me.
favorites.
Okay, love you, followers.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Peace.
Bye, Lise. Isn't she fun? I just have a feeling that we'd have a good time, having dinner together or lunch. I'm so sad she's 2 provinces over. Oh, what a blast. We just need people like that. I was looking down at my dad's Bible, and I thought there's this scripture and it says, train up a child in the way it should go. And I wondered, I looked it up and I like, where is that? And, you can Google anything, like any words that and Google will produce the chapter and verse for you. So Google's one of the greatest tools to getting the scriptures into your soul. But it's in Proverbs 22:6, and my dad has underlined it. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And so, when we train up our children, there's so many different things. It's not just this issue we've talked about today, but all of these things, teaching your kids to have good morals, to be good people, not to lie, to follow the ways of God. And oftentimes we can have a season where we see that the kids are going one way or the other. But as a parent, you can take it to God and you can say, I just want to remind you, Lord, that you said that if we trained up a child in the way he should go, that when they are old, they will not depart from it. And sometimes it's when they're really old, you got to go through a few years where they're not really getting it. But then something beautiful, I think, happens. And that's when they find themselves the way that you did. You didn't exactly know how to think about everything either. And so we have to just have a lot of grace and mercy for kids that are trying to figure out with all the voices that are coming at them. And to see somebody like Lise just fighting for those kids and for what our established tax-paying, organizations are doing on our tax dollars. It's disgusting. It's not okay. And I love what she said at the end there, that we're gaining ground and that it's changing because lots of people are standing up. So I want to remind you that we have an epic event coming. So this Saturday night in Coquitlam, and then Monday in Alberta, in Calgary, and then Tuesday in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and then I'll be back home on Wednesday, babe. But we're going to have this amazing event. So you got that video ready to rock? Many of you might remember Dr. Matthias Desmet. He was seen on Tucker Carlson, and his interview just went viral because he talked about mass formation psychosis. As a clinical psychologist himself, he understood that what we were seeing was very unusual, but not unknown, and it's not that it had never been seen previously in history, but something very strange happens. And so that dude that was on Tucker Carlson, that guy, along with Jim Ferguson from the UK, who's reporting on all the crazy going on in the UK, and what happens in the UK happens to us, they're coming here. And then in Calgary, And in Manitoba will be Dr. Brian Artis. Take a look at this.
In the end, up to 95% or even sometimes even more go along with the totalitarian narrative, with the narrative that led to the mass formation.
And we know that in the rare cases, I think off the top of my head, 400 or 500 cases so far of humans, the mortality rate is extraordinarily high.
And what they're looking to do is to create a new one world order that they control.
Poor little sweetie pie is not going to cough up some pathogen and make you sick. It's a psyop. It's an absolute psyop.
The George Soroses, the Clintons, the Gates Foundation, these people are completely on the other team.
Mass formation always becomes radically intolerant for dissonant voices. And in the end, they become so intolerant that they think it is their ethical duty, literally, to destroy each and everyone who doesn't go along with them.
Yay. All right, so get your tickets, and you got that thing to put up on the screen. On the side, if you want tickets right now, hold your phone up, put it on camera, and then hold it up to the QR code, and it's going to give you exactly where to go. Get your tickets now. We need you there, and I'm excited that that these epic people are coming. And Brian Artis is from the States. Dr. Matthias Desmet is from Belgium. Is he from? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I was just in, Geneva, Switzerland, and that's where I met him personally. And I thought, I just, heard him speak, and he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's just as brilliant as he was when he was on the Tucker Carlson show. So I got to have a little interview with him, and I knew that if we could help to get good information out to the people, that would be a very positive thing. Looking ahead, I hope that you are thinking about what is important for your very valuable dollars. And I've heard recently that we're seeing a little bit of a problem. The TD banks, the banks are beginning to sound an alarm and saying that something's coming. I think that's what we've been talking about for a long time around here. But make sure that you're just taking care of business. Make sure that with all of these warnings, there's a reason you're watching this show. God is having you watch this show. Like, you could be watching a lot of other things right now, but you're watching this, Laura-Lynn Live. And our commission, our destiny, and our calling is to sound the alarm on anything that we see is kind of happening. And we watch very closely. I listen to hours and hours of people's opinions that are experts. And I listen to them, I'll tell you the truth about it, I listen to them on double speed so that I don't get too bored when they're talking slow. But when I listen, I gain the information, I hear what they're saying, and then I go to the next guy and I go, well, what's this guy saying? When it begins to line up that they're all, everyone is saying, there is no possible way to go, the trillions of dollars in North America that we are now in debt. There's coming a day when all of our taxes literally just pay the interest. So how are you ever paying that down? There's some people that are not playing the game anymore. And that's China and the BRICS nations, basically. And they're saying, we don't want to play monopoly money. They are getting gold. They are backing up their currency with gold, while we, with our fiat currency, remain in trouble. We don't have that backing. So when we need something, we're printing it. And my husband has said to me several times, well, I hope they just print our taxes then. Print the money for our taxes. That's what you can do. And if you're going to print money, print it all. Let's just keep playing the great game. So we like Steve Merrill, and he's with Sun City Gold and Silver, and you can call him. You can ask him what's up. He'll give you his honest opinion, and he has been absolutely fabulous with us. Like, you know, when we ask very pertinent questions to our situation, and you're going to have questions for your situation that are private, confidential, and you can discuss it with him. But Sun City Silver and Gold is a great place, and Steve is, he's just very knowledgeable. He's aware, if you know what I mean. He understands what's going on in the world. He is not deceived, and he's able to help you to get gold and silver into your hands so that in a day, when the dollar crashes and everyone stops playing Monopoly, you can say, well, I already stopped a long time ago, and my money is not Monopoly money. My money is not printed on a piece of paper that is losing its value every single day. My money is worth something, and that is silver and gold. The Bible says the silver and the gold are mine. If you would like any ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, contact Mia and check that out. And also we've got if you'd like some antibiotics, that is at Lark's Medical. And when everything goes crazy, there's no time to kind of figure it all out when a crisis hits. So it's better to have a little bit of a backup plan. Have some antibiotics so that if anybody's sick and has an infection, they can take the antibiotics. And have your own backup plan. So whatever they've got coming, we're wargaming better, God's in full control. We know this. He's watching the bad dudes. The only thing that God actually stopped himself from having control of is each individual's will. So God can show you that he's there. He can show you who he is. He can try to reach you as much as possible. But if you reject him, God will honor that rejection. He will honor it. And he'll say, I tried to show you. If you don't want me, you don't want me. But God will never reject you. He will honor your will. We're the only beings on the planet. Dogs aren't running around and thinking about how, why am I here? Do I have a soul? And of course, I do believe that dogs have souls. Some dogs maybe don't make it to heaven if they're super bad. But because some people have had bad dogs, right? But I think that our dogs are going to heaven for sure. And we're going to hang out with all the dogs we've ever had. But I do know that the only beings that God gave this incredible, absolutely astounding right to choose to believe or not to believe. The hippos don't have this. It's just humans. We get to decide. A giraffe doesn't get to decide. A lion, as magnificent as they are, as incredible as a dolphin is, it doesn't get to decide if it's going to serve God or not. We are the only created beings that have a soul, that has a circumspect ability to kind of consider all that we live in, whether this is real, whether this is something we want to believe in, whether we investigate if God is real or not. And so I urge you to make him your priority for peace, especially at this time as we're watching the chaos in the United States and, quite frankly, the chaos that's coming here. So I want to leave you with these verses right now in Deuteronomy 6, verse 4. And it says this, talking about kids today. So God gave some words, and Moses wrote them down in the Bible. And so Jesus came and he spoke in red letter edition, but when God spoke in the Old Testament, it wasn't in red letter, but it says this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, he is one Lord. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Hey everyone, tell the kids today about one of the 10 commandments. Maybe pull it up. Go to Google if you don't know exactly where it is and say 10 commandments. And Google's going to tell you exactly where to find that in your Bible at home. And I pray that you have one sitting somewhere and hopefully not collecting too much dust. Hopefully you're pulling that out to read with the kids because it's powerful. The Word of God says, impress them, impress the commandments on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home. Isn't that specific? I'm thinking the best time is sort of at the TV dinner table and, just talk about what's important to God. I recently had my good friend, Pastor Mike Poulin, on the show, and they have these principles, these 40 principles, like a family devotional that you can do with your family. You could even combine it with 2 households, where all the kids get together and the mums and the dads kind of lead this little devotional. It's less than a half hour and it gives you a little story and you can read, and then you all underline something that's important to you, and then everybody kind of tells, what was the part you underlined out of this little lesson? What do you think is most important about, let's say the principle would be like honesty. What do you think is the most important part about that? And then everyone gets to talk about it. And you have this little family devotional. It's not long, it's not boring at all. It's fun. Talk about them when you sit at home, it says. And when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. The Word of God is saying here that we are to instruct our children in the way that we think is right. And that is a very, very serious responsibility of parents. I personally loved reading the Bible stories to the kids over and over when they were young, asking them if they knew the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the story of David and Goliath, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. And there is just amazing tools that you can get from your bookstore. If you have a Christian bookstore in your area, be sure to go over there and find the best tools to help you to guide your kids in all of this. The last thing it says here is write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. I think that kind of means signs, that you have signs up. Because here's the thing, the fight that we're against is the epic world agenda that they are trying to teach your kids. So your teaching needs to be better. God bless you. See you soon. It's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.